Are you fed up with content washing? Do you want to elevate your voice beyond good and evil? You are at the right place. In today's episode, we'll show you how to unleash your content creation game with a winning ethical framework. Welcome, I'm Frederic Bruno, and it's a Content Creator Weekly Show. Let's get started. Welcome. It's my privilege to co-host this show with the one and only Cyril Coste, aka the Digital Transformation Navigator, aka the Prompt King. How are you today, Cyril?
I love when you speak to me like this, I can never get tired. I'm very well, Frederic. Thank you for this very kind introduction. I'm super excited about topics this week. I mean, like this is a topic that it was very relevant, was very loud a few years ago. But since ChatGPT, ethics has been like, we started to, there was a bit like, in school, in universities, using ChatGPT to write your paper, etc. But, that was like the most ethic, unethic. After we had like, it was CNET who wrote some articles, generated articles, and said, is that very ethical?
Ethics now is a crucial question for content creators.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of way to speak about it. In our today episode, we decided to be very focused on how content creators use a clear framework to create ethical content. So the first thing we have to do here is maybe to define what we heard by ethics, and after that we will introduce 5 key action to develop your ethical content.
Well,
I think that you spent sometimes in UCLA, Cyril.
A long time ago. Oh my gosh.
A long time ago. And in UCLA,
I had a mandatory
ethics.
Yeah, I had a mandatory course about ethics, business ethics.
So, what was the definition at that time of ethics?
Ethics, it was basically what was kind of morally acceptable at this point in time. Okay, so ethics change over time. It's not set in stone. It's like laws, laws change over time, and ethics too. So what is ethical today maybe was completely unethical 20 years ago, and what is ethical today maybe will be completely unethical in 20 years from now. So that's why it's so difficult, because it's very attached about cultural values, conformity to the norm, what the society approve, what communities approve, what the country approve. We are both French. What is ethical in French may not be the same in the UK, where I live, or may be the same in the US, where we have a lot of our audience based. So that's why, when Frederic and I talk about ethics, and maybe we are going to share some examples, these examples are based on our on perceptions, what we live, where we live. So we know we have some audience in Asia, for example, and India, where maybe things can be a bit different. So adapt ethics on your circumstances.
You're perfectly right, Cyril. Ethics is something also very personal, because it's about your culture, where you are living, your past experience. There is a lot of things, and even if you speak about French, now the French society is really fragmented. So if we speak about ethics, we can say also that ethics is also fragmented too. And what is ethics for me maybe is not ethics for another French guy. So the first things you have to do is to be very clear about you, about your value. So we will start with one thing, is about brand, your intention. Let's get started. You notice, Cyril, this week we've got music on the chat.
Shorter intro. Well done, Frederic.
Because you like rock and roll. Last time I will do the chapter a little bit long. But to start, as we mentioned, now society are completely fragmented, and to speak about ethics when you are a content creator, you have to be very clear about your value, about who you are, about what is important for you. So it's just like the Delph oracles, you have to know yourself to start your content creator journey, and never accept something that is not aligned with your value. And don't be wrong. If you have not the same value that your neighbor, it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a problem. I see too many people who want to create exactly the same kind of content, like their neighbors are, absolutely, because they like this kind of creators. They want to copy the style and the way, the tone of voice and something like that to create content. And at the end, it's very unpersonal because it's not your personality, it's not your values, it's not who you are. So you have to be very clear. You have to create to be very clear on your values, on who you are.
Frederic, what you just said is very important, and I think it's important to explain it in the context of, for years, especially, if you're Tony Robbins follower or whatever, you will always say, you have to copy, you have to model a behavior, a success, in order for you, to get the same habits and to copy this success and get the same results. This was basically my 10-second summary of 20 years of it. So just a high-level idea, you have this idea that works very well in personal development, that basically if you want to be successful, you copy someone who is successful in terms of his behaviors and values, not necessarily values, but you adapt your values, you align your values, and you can expect the same result. Here, what we are talking is very different, is that if you see someone successful as a content creator, it's not because you're going to copy their niche, their style, their tone of voice, that you are going to have the same result. Because there is something in B2B, especially B2B content creators and thought leadership. It's authenticity. So that's why I wanted to make this distinction a bit what you said before, that I'm sure a lot of people have heard with Tony Robbins and all the gurus in personal development, and what we are talking here. So it's slightly different in the sense that basically authenticity is going to be a key differentiator. I wanted also to go back. Sorry, I wanted also to go back to one of your words that you use. You use fragmented. But in my view, a better word would be either to use the word niche, because fragmented means, in my view, divisions and oppositions, which I get it where you're coming from. They say, we have more and more different opinions, but
it's because the word is fragmented that you have niche.
Yes, but I don't want these ideas of opposition or confrontation to
absolutely. I understand what you mean. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry for the interruption on my two.
No. It's important to be very clear, and I want just to give you one example about what is brand your intention, because as a content creator, you have to think about yourself as a brand, and all your values have to be in all your actions. And I just want to give a short example of Gillette. Gillette is well known for his razor, and few years ago they had a very, very bad buzz about the women division, because Gillette claims that they want to have women equality, and they express themselves. They make a lot of communication about that, and it's very important for them. Good. The problem is, when you claim that you want to have gender equality and product for women are 30% higher than product for men, you've got a problem.
That
you
was
don't
called
brand your intention.
That was called the pink tax.
Absolutely. And Gillette had a awful bad buzz about that, because they just, in my point of view, they see a communication opportunity and they don't understand that you have to be constant in the way you communicate. So when you work on your communication and content framework, always think that you are a brand, and you have to brand your intention in every operational steps of your development. And maybe, Cyril, you can explain us how you start your journey on that part, how you test, how you discover what is important for you.
Well, this could take many shape and form. I think that's a good question, and I don't have a definitive answer to you to that point. But I'm just going to illustrate, to continue to illustrate what you've just said. And if you talk about sustainability, for example, and I talk, more and more about it and the importance of digital transformation to make the world more sustainable. What I communicate and vehicle through my messages, must, match these values. I don't say that from business purpose or for personal gain. It's just because, like most of us now, we strongly believe in it, and it's all about talking initiatives and showing how it can work. If at the same time I was, I don't know, showing me flying first class around the world every week, eating meat at almost every meal, and having a very unsustainable lifestyle, either in terms of natural resources, water, oil, extra, that will not match very well with my personal brand. I mean, if I don't like it. So that's why, even as content creators, what we say, especially when we work with partnerships, on what we say we like about, working in our different collaborations and what we create for our partners, must align with what we say when we are not working with them on different collaborations. I think that's, quite important. So, I know that in point 5, we are going also to develop something about, mapping the partnership, etc. So I don't want to go too much in that direction. But I'm going to also, you gave this very good example with Gillette. I'm going to share another example with Patagonia. Patagonia strongly, the founder of Patagonia strongly believes that, in sustainability, and made the decision basically to give the company to a charity whose purpose is to fight climate change and make the world a better place. That's a strong statement, basically, to give $1 billion company away. Well, I'm sure he made good money during the time he was a founder. But that's a company that aligns, everything. Basically, you align the production, the communication, and as the future of the company, in one objective: sustainability.
Okay, wonderful. So, first steps of the framework: brand your intention. So, jumping into the second step of the framework. So I just have a question for our audience to illustrate what we want to talk now. If you are an environmental company or foundation, do you think you can use studies made by petroleum companies to illustrate your point and illustrate who you are and the topics you want to talk about? I think all people in the audience, for all people in the audience, the answer is obviously not. So if it's okay, if the answer is no, when you are an environmental company, as a content creators, why do you keep using sources that are not aligned with your values, especially with generative AI? It's a huge topic now. So our advice to create your ethical framework, it's to create a list of trustful sources. And even more when you use generative AI, tell ChatGPT, AutoGPT, AgentGPT, all GPT you want, the right sources to create the right information and the right content for you. And I think that, Cyril, this is something you're very, very focused on.
Yes, and there has been so many questions about around the data set about ChatGPT. The fact that until 3.5, it was until September 2021 that it was using some public domain data, etc. But still a lot of questions about the data set and how it's going to be formed. And here there are 4 points if you want to ensure the credibility of a data source. Okay, so here we are going to separate, the model, the large language model, and the data sources. Okay. So the
Give us the 4 points.
The 4 points is authoritativeness. You need to look for sources who come from reputable organizations, institutions, or experts. So UN, World Bank, IMF, UNICEF, etc. These are data sets that you can trust because they have been compiled by experts, and with all different opinions inside these institutions. Even something like Banque de France or Bank of England, for example, also will have excellent data source. Timeliness. You need to ensure that the information is up to date and relevant to the current context. So that's one critique of ChatGPT, is that it's likely the data up to roughly September 2021. And if you plan to use generative AI, you need to ensure that the latest information have been consumed by the model. Otherwise, what you're going to generate, not only it's not that it's dated, but it may be wrong if you think that that's up to date. So that's very important, especially in everything regarding meditech and medical AI, where the latest models are far more effective than the old models in terms of cancer detection, for example. That's very important. Number 3, accuracy. You need to verify the information against multiple sources. You need to cross-reference as usual. In the media, for example, if you work for the Washington Post, the Guardian, or Le Monde, you kind of always need 2 independent sources when you want to release a story. One is not enough because someone can make up a story incredibly. So that's why it's important to have one information and to train the model on more than one data set, just to ensure that it's it's accurate. Number 4, yes.
Number 4, please. Number 4. I will ask for it.
Objectivity. Avoid sources that exhibit a strong bias or promote a particular agenda. To go back to your oil company. So it depends. If the oil company publish it as a kind of white paper or company strategy, yes, maybe pinch of salt. if they commission a research and they publish the results as is without touching, interpreting, curating, that was it.
Yeah.
So once again, depending on who is going to publish the data set, you are going to be suspicious, more or less suspicious. Let's say that's right.
Never forget that numbers are fact. The way you explain the numbers are opinion. So you have to always check the fact and be sure that studies or papers are not oriented and have not a strong bias at the end. So it's very, very important. In fact, content creators have to become also fact checker at the end.
Some can be, but like I'm a content creator. I'm not a journalist. This is always what I say. I'm not a journalist. I'm not here to check the facts. Okay, I'm here to interpret what the facts means. What this technology, what is the impact on the experience for companies, for businesses, how they operate. This is my job.
But because you reduce the bias, because you select your information sources to be sure that they are not fake, that they are not oriented, they are neutral at the beginning. So this is why you can use them also.
That's why I can use them also. Just for your information, in the Twitter feed, I've just added the 4 criteria for how to evaluate the quality of the data.
Yeah.
Okay? So
great. It's completely interactive. If you have any question, by the way, for Cyril or for I, just feel free to put them on the chat. We will be more than happy to answer your question. So, second part of the framework, create a list of trustful sources. Number 3. So, you have now values. You'll be very clear about your values. You decided your sources. Now, you start exchanging with people, because as a content creator, your first job is to build community. You're a community builder. So you have to interact with a lot of people. There is 2 ways to do that, in my opinion. There are shy people that are always agreed with everybody. And at the end, no matter the value, they are always agree. They are not community builder. They are not content creator, in my opinion. And they are really strong community builder and content creator. And they are ready to fight to defend their value. Not in an offensive way, with a lot of respect for everybody's opinion. But you have to fight to defend your value. Cyril, I like a quote for Winston Churchill about that. Let me just share it with you. You have enemies? Good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life. So it's a little bit extreme, because I don't ask you to have a lot of enemies, not that part, but to stand up for your ideas, to stand up for your values. Define your tone of voice, and don't change your tone of voice just to please someone.
Exactly.
It's really, really important.
It's personal. It's really personal,
Yeah.
It's relating to your values. And tone of voice indeed refer to the way you as a content creator are going to express your ideas, values, and personality through your content. Okay? So you can use your language, vocabulary is very important. Your style,
Yeah.
Style. For example, I'm not very formal. I'm semi-casual, you would say. You too, like yeah.
Yeah.
We don't present this show, for example, as academics. For example, we want it to be a bit more fun.
Yeah.
So
We try.
we try. We have a style. We want to be jargon free. We want to be accessible to everybody, from someone
Yeah.
who just starts their content creator career to someone who's been doing this for 20 years. We want that there is something for everybody. And attitude, attitude. We share, because we see what we want to do. This is what our passion. This is our job, and we want to communicate about it. And
and we know that some of you are not agree with us and could have some other view on what we are saying, but no matter, we are perfectly aligned with our values. And sometimes Cyril and I are not also aligned. We have different perception, different point of view. For instance, I live in France. Cyril is living in London. So culturally, sometimes it's different. But no matter, we defend our point of view with respect of each other. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what you have to do with your community. And if you start engaging with your community with respect and explain what you are doing, you will have fantastic results at the end, because you will be a community builder.
Yeah. I've just added a quote in the We Are Foxy Nerds account on the post for the live. Yeah. So if you go on twitter.com/We Are Foxy Nerds on the latest post about this live, I added this quote, which is, "The right tone of voice is a bridge between your ideas and your audience understanding."
So true. So true.
I say, without the right tone of voice, your audience will not understand your message. Very important.
And remember what we say at the beginning. The first part is brand your intention. So if you are clear about your values, you have to adapt your tone of voice about your values also in every operational step at the end.
Okay. And we can make, like a very long episode about the tone of voice. What does it mean? The characteristic. And I think we will go back on this, because there is yesterday I shared a great article about something that happened about OneCoin. And it's fascinating how the tone of voice was a key element of this scam.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great, for a future episode, to use this, to go back on tone of voice for content creators and explain, how you can reverse engineer the process to understand how they did it.
With great pleasure. So if you are more than interested to that, go to the content session and just say, yes, we want that tone of voice episode.
And don't forget to follow We Are Foxy Nerds on Twitter and on LinkedIn and on YouTube to be get posted about the latest episodes.
Absolutely, you're right. And so, third part of the framework: stand up for your ideas and your values. Now, the fourth part. And this fourth part is linked to the previous one, because you have to be very clear and monitor your audience. And there is a lot of things to do, to explain about that. And I want to give you two main ideas. The first one is, you are a community builder. So you are not responsible for what other people say, but your responsibility is to maintain a good quality of exchange in your community. It's really important. You are the community in chief, at the end. So you have to be very careful about the dynamic in your community. It's really important. So if you saw that some people are very aggressive and are not respectful and so on, if it's not aligned with your value, you have to to explain that, and sometimes to ban some of them. So this is the first thing. But I just introduce the point, and after I let Cyril give more example and explain about that. And my second part is, as a content creator, sometimes you are working with brands, and if you want to be an ethical content creator, you also have to be very clear about what is your real audiences. So if you have fake followers or sleeping followers and so on, you have to be conscious about that. You have to clean your audience also. Because if you want to work with the brands, it's not the same if you claim that you have 100,000 followers and only 1% is active followers or real followers.
Yeah.
So be very, very clear about that. But I know that it's a topic very important, Cyril, for you. So I just introduced the topic, and I now let you explain more about that. Please, Cyril.
Sure. So this is a topic that is important because your clients, your brands, in their collaboration are going to ask, who is your audience, and what has been the impact of the campaign, of the content you have created on this audience. So usually you have like four key criteria, 4 key metrics. Okay. So the first one is reach. They say how many people have seen or could see your message. So that's why retweets, sharing, extra are very important, because they multiply this reach effect. It just it's like it's like saying someone can jump 6 meters, in athleticism. So that's a kind of, okay, as a human, I can jump up to 6 meters. Doesn't mean I will jump 6 meters, okay? So that's a kind of the ceiling, so the reach is just a ceiling. It's just a number, you don't really do much with that, okay? The second metric is the engagement. So basically is how many people have effectively as a view, for real, as a like, shared, commented on your content. So the engagement metric is it's a kind of, did I like your content metric? Okay, or did I dislike your content? Because hate, don't forget that online hate is a far more emotion than love. Okay, this is social media. This is 2023. We've built the greatest things in technology, but basically hate on social media has a higher power than love. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
So
depending also about the media.
Depending on the media, but homophobic, misogynist, racism, ageism, extra, you can't name it, okay? There's not enough. So don't forget that in this engagement, some of it may be negative, and some will be positive. Again, we could do like a full hour on this easily. Number 3 is conversion. So it's one thing to have people to view, to like your content, but basically what you really want to do is, at the end of the day, to have a CTA. Have they signed up to a newsletter? Have they downloaded your report? Have they signed up for a free trial on your product? Have they signed up to another account that you was promoting? So what is a CTA? The conversion is probably what we underestimate, and we know, we had this conversation, Frederic, many times. It's also what brands and partnership are moving forward, are pushing a bit.
Absolutely. More. Amplification side.
Yeah. And number 4 is audience demographic. That's very, very important for any type of content creator, B2B, B2C. You need to know who is your audience. That, in terms of geographies, in terms of age, in terms of gender, you need to know, what is their main occupation, or at least you need to know, are they in their 20s, or are they senior people in the IT firms? You need to have a picture, who are your 2-3 key audiences because this is what potential partners are going to ask you when you are going to develop some partnership. So these are basically the 4 key metrics: reach, engagement, conversion, audience, demographics.
Yeah.
And why do we do this? One is to understand what content types perform the best with my audience.
Absolutely.
So is it text, is it video, is it content curation, is it quotes, is it...
And sometimes you have a big surprise, because when you have a look about the kind of audience interact with you and the kind of content you are sharing, sometimes it's not the result you have in mind at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And you can understand that it's not the kind of people and the kind of audience you are targeting, and you have to change the way to create your content to be in touch with the right audience.
Mm-hmm. So that's the point too. So you have the content type, and then you have the topics and themes. And you're absolutely right, Frederic. It always amazes me that basically sometimes, I write a tweet and say, that's just something I have in the head, and that make some of my best tweets. It's absolutely funny how things work. You have no idea to predict. Some people say they can. I personally don't know if a tweet is going to be few thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. I have no idea to predict, because you just need someone to pick up this tweet, someone with a powerful reach, and to retweet it. And from time to time that happens to me. An account with millions of followers sharing my tweet, and boom. So that's why you need to understand these topics and themes in order to attract these big accounts to share your content. Number 3.
I think we will speak also about that in just a few minutes.
Okay. Number 3, optimal posting and time and frequency. So that's why you also need to track, when is your engagement and conversion at the highest. I use, for example, I give you an illustration. I used to have like a little peak around 3 a.m. UK time, and it was Japanese people basically just consuming my content. And I stopped after to post around 3 a.m., and it disappeared. I've lost my Japanese audience. But that was quite funny to have this little peak of views in the very early morning.
But you decided because it's not a targeted audience.
And I did not have enough content or fresh content, or after it was just retweets also, sometimes you have to make some choices.
This is also what you mean by cleaning your audience.
I would have loved to keep my Japanese audience, but it's just like, how do I monetize it? How do I keep in touch with what is going on in Japan? I've been to Japan a few times. I know that basically what is going on digitally in terms of innovation is very, very different from what is going on in Asia, Europe, and North America. So, how do you keep track of all of that? Sometimes you have to make choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
And number 4, which is also very linked to what you just said, is basically you need to always experiment in order to identify opportunities to create new audience segment and new format. Okay, never stop. For example, what we do with Frederic here, with the Twitter Live, LinkedIn Live, and YouTube Live, is an experiment that we've been going for 3 months.
We are always experimenting.
And we have added the Twitter space, and it's an ongoing experiment, and we see, we do that exactly, Frederic. We check the reach, how many views, we see how many people contacted us after the show, we see how many people follow you after on the We Are Foxinos account on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and
so don't forget to subscribe to our LinkedIn page, our YouTube page, and our Twitter account.
And this is exactly, what we are doing. Either the 4 key metrics or the 4 actions that you do from this metrics. This is exactly what we've been doing in our experiment with this weekly show.
Absolutely. And just now, I suggest to jump into the last part and to speak about partnership. So now you are clear about your value. You define your tone of voice. You know what are your trustful sources. You are very, very clear about your audience. Now you can start working with other people. And by other people, I mean brands, but also other content creators. And the question is, do you accept all deals? Just go back to the first, to a previous example. If you are an environmental company and you receive a price from an association of entrepreneurs, for instance, but you know that the price is sponsored by an oil company. Do you accept the price or not? This is the kind of ethical question you have to answer. And this is exactly the same kind of question for content creators. Do you want to make deals with brands that are not aligned with your values, and or to work with other content creators that have completely different values than yours and opposite values than yours? This is the kind of question you have to answer as a content creator. So what I suggest as the last part of your framework, it's to map your potential partners in terms of content creator, other content creators, but also in terms of brands. What are your ideal partners profile? You know, in sales, we speak about ideal customers profile. In content creation, we can speak about ideal partnership, ideal partners profile. You know, and be very clear about the kind of people you want, and also be very clear about your ethical ranking score. What you can do, and one I suggest, just pick the 5 main values, and just say, okay, what are the score on a scale to 1 to 5? This brand, what is the score for the first value, for the second, for the third? And at the end, you just make an average. And if the score is not to 4 to 5, don't work with them. Don't work with them, because you will have a lot of constraints and you will not be comfortable to work with this to work with this kind of brands. I know that, Cyril, sometimes you refuse some deals because you're not comfortable working with some companies or with maybe some people also.
Yes. It's for example, a sector that is a bit tricky to work with is energy, oil and gas sector.
Yeah.
For example. How can you? But it's very difficult to talk about energy transition if you don't talk about fossil fuels.
Yeah.
But how do you do this energy transition if the current leaders in the oil and gas industry don't finance the green innovation required for solar panels, wind farms, batteries, etc.? So it's very tricky, because basically you as a content creator, you only want to talk about the nice, good side, and you don't want about the consequences on the other side, because these fossil fuels on the long term, they have consequences, geopolitical, etc. And you say, oh, fantastic, yeah, let's have an electric vehicle. Amazing.
Yeah.
So you need batteries. If you need batteries, you need cobalt. Where is the cobalt? Cobalt comes from 2 main areas: Democratic Republic of Congo and Russia. So and in Democratic Republic of Congo, it's mainly illegal minings where children are used as slaves, basically to mine cobalt. So you say basically, yeah, okay. So on one side, I want to ship from oil and gas to another source of energy source. Fine, very nice, because you don't want to pay money to Saudi Arabia, whatever. But on the other side, you are also against children's exploitation, or giving money to Putin and Russia. So what do? It's never clear. So this idea that I have strong values and I have strong commitment. Yes, you have values and commitment, but after in acts, how are you going to translate that in your day-to-day decisions? It's never easy. Yes, I did refuse some work. A great it's a great project to promote a smart city in a country which doesn't really promote human rights values, and so I declined to participate to this campaign. Yeah. I give you an example where from time to time I work with Huawei on especially on their B2B side. They are really developed some digital transformation services, really up to date, and amazing capabilities in 5G extra. So I continue to work with them, even after the ban in the UK and the US. But most of the US influencers that I know used to work with Huawei have all decided, to more or less to stop. And this idea also is that some other influencers I work with from time to time to amplify my content. They say, no, sorry, Cyril, I can't, share any Huawei content. Yeah. And they do this not because, in the US, this Huawei ban has been presented as very, political or extra. So sometimes, what can be, and this joined exactly what we said at the beginning of the show, ethics will change depending on where you live.
Yeah.
And in Europe, we have a slightly different view over the Huawei, what is happening with Huawei in Europe, and UK, France also have different views versus what is going on in the US. So that's a pretty good example indeed. As I told you when we prepared the show, is that from time to time I will have people, commenting on my Huawei articles or Huawei posts, about, that Huawei is a very bad company because they are run by the Communist Party, extra, and that's not the purpose of my post. My post is about technology. It's about how making the world better. It's technology making. I mean, you need to go through the history of Huawei, how it started, how it has been able to make 4G, 5G, and telecommunications available in most part of the poorest area in the world, in South America, Africa, Asia. And without Huawei, there will be some large part of the world where maybe they will not have access to mobile technology.
Yeah.
And it's, as a business case, it's also a very interesting company. So it's not like my values are not really aligned with the Communist Party of China, but that's not what I'm doing with when I work with Huawei. That's not at all what you do. They are passionate about what they're doing. They have some strong commitment about the environment, and maybe one day it will stop. So far it continues as long as we are both happy with our mutual understanding and values, and no problem with that. But I think that's a very good example about illustration about how different influencers in the world, different areas in the world.
As you mentioned, where you are has an impact about your world perception. And it's also an impact about the kind of values you've got and what is well aligned for you or not. And you have to be always very clear about that. Thanks a lot, Cyril, for sharing all these examples with us today. Just to remind you guys, the 5 parts of our ethical winning framework. First one, brand your intention. This is the first one. Second one, create a list of trustful sources. Third one, stand up for your ideas and your values. Fourth one, know your audience very well. And last one, map your potential partnership. So if you got these five, you use these five keys, you will be able to develop your framework. And don't mess up with that. Never forget that this kind of framework is a contract with yourself. You probably know now that I'm a huge fan of basketball, and I'm also a fan of someone called Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant has one of the most impressive work ethic in the world. And he explained, sometimes he's tired, sometimes he doesn't want to train or something like that. But at the end, he always remembers that he passed a contract with himself. And no matter if he was tired, he had to wake up at 4 a.m. and start training. So sometimes be like Kobe, just have a contract with yourself and never mess with your ethics. Something to add, Cyril, to conclude?
No, I think that was a very good episode. I think that this has bring clarity on the ethics in AI, especially. I think this was the way we framed it. Of course, there is a lot of opinion on people, can have different views on this, and I strongly invite them, to comment on Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube about, if they have a different say to this, if they would like to add something or remove something, that would be very beneficial to, and maybe you can go back in a future episode on this.
Absolutely, and we will be more than happy to have your point of view on this kind of episode. We always try to make no bullshit, but to have very operational and practical advice to help you to develop your content creation game. So we really hope you enjoy this video, learn something new. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for most exciting content. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you in our next episode. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.